Hey guys, it's Jake. In the last video we went over the Ragdoll system that I created for Crosswalk Joyride in Unity. And it works very nice, but there was a problem. So let's get into it. So the problem with the Ragdoll system that I created was when the player would hit Tommy, if you hit him head on, he would get like suddenly stopped for a second and then something would happen. And this was a problem. This was no good. And the reason this was happening was because of the character controller that controls my player. When it hits a rigid body, it doesn't affect rigid bodies in the same way that other rigid bodies do when they hit it. So when I tested it against other cars, and the rigid body would throw it very nicely, but the character controller will not. So I wanted to see if I could just redo my character controller, just getting rid of the character controller in total and actually adding back a rigid body with not a capsule, but like a box collider or a collider in general, and see if I could get that system to work. I spent a long time on this and I ended up just giving it up because there was just so many errors. Like the only thing that I could think of to fix this was to add a box collider around the character controller that had a rigid body that added force. It's not force, it's mass. So when it would hit Tommy, it would just blow it away before it even hit the character controller. So you never get that stopping. And I know this isn't the greatest way to do it. In fact, I'm sure that's not a good way to do it at all. If you guys have problems with me doing that and you want to suggest something in the comments, that's fine. I get it. But yeah, this is what I'm doing for now. It works from what I can see. When I first did it, I only had a few issues with how much force was applied, and Tommy was flying crazy off screen. So when I reduced that, I didn't reduce it to the point where it was in the last video. I reduced it to a point where he was flying backwards, just a more dramatic hit, and I love it. So after this, I wanted to change pace, because I was looking when Tommy was coming up at the screen, I realized his face looks so low res, not, like in his texture. And this was because when you have a texture image, it's just a square file, and I had all the different parts of the mesh laid out, and so the face was rather small in it, which led for less pixels that it could use, so it was a lower resolution. I looked around the internet for ways to do it, and then I thought of Zelda, The Legend of Zelda, and like the Wind Waker, because the Wind Waker, his eyes and his mouth, the only thing that's real is his nose, and they animate it and everything, so I wanted to look into that. And what they do, they take the model, and then they take the selection of the faces that they want from the model, and then they duplicate that, and they move it out just 1%. Just so it's hovering over, but you can't tell. And then they just apply the texture to that. So I did this, and I had it all set up and everything, but the way I did it, I did the whole face kind of thing, but it was leading to two textures that I just didn't like, and you had to do an alpha for the one, but it wasn't really working with my shader. So I had to take the whole face as a selection and pull it out, and that led to some other problems. Basically what happened is when you would look at it from the side, there was a lighting issue because you couldn't do an alpha blend, or I don't know what I just said, but basically you couldn't do where it's only the eye. You had to have the skin, and it added this weird effect on the lighting because it just had an increase of light that you can obviously see that there was two textures. So I had to go away from this just because of my shader. The thing that bends the vertices, it just was not working. So instead I wanted to do it more like my cars and have boxes of colors, and I would just add them at the top, and basically the whole image texture would just go to the face, and this would make it high resolution. And so I did this, and it looked great. It looked great, and I was very happy with it. So from here, I wanted to make another character to add into the game, so it's not just Tommy. I'm always talking about Tommy, but let's get some other people in here. And the answer was Nico. That would be the easiest one to make and the fastest. So I decided to make Nico, and he still had the hat. He didn't have the floppy hair that comes out of it, and he has a long sleeve shirt, and then everything else is basically just recoloring him and maybe changing the eyes. So I went and did this, and it worked splendidly, and I put him in the game. But now I wanted to add another character. This one, instead of being exactly like Tommy, I wanted to make something that was more that I could mold or like change into everybody else from there. So the best one, because I had deleted Tommy's head under his hat and hair, which I wish I didn't, because I ended up having to remodel it for Pablo. I chose Pablo. But this meant I had to remodel the head, so I spent some time getting just the vertices there, and then I spent some time vigorously point poling the vertices over and over again until I had the right shape for his head. And I really wish that I just kept the model the way it was before. But I deleted it because I was worried about memory, even though I haven't had any memory issues yet. I just didn't want to take chances. But I got it modeled, and I reformed the head, and then it was just a matter of changing his clothes. And Pablo has a jacket over his white t-shirt. So what I did is I took the selection of his t-shirt and I extruded it, and then I made a collar, and that's basically it for his clothing. That's the only variation. So now it's just a matter of texturing, and Pablo is a little different on texturing than everybody else. With everybody else, is everything could just be the colors and it's just the face. With Pablo in Crosswalk, he had a nice fade along the side of his head, and I wanted to incorporate this, and he also needed a beard. So I had to extend the selection of UVs to allow for a beard. It doesn't, I mean, it works from what I can see, but the hardest part was adding that fade. So I had to do it just above his eyes on the texture image. Based on the other ones, I didn't want to have to change the whole way I formatted these images. So the face had to stay where it was. I couldn't move it around, so I had to make it a smaller selection on the texture image itself for the fade. But it worked out okay from what I can see. I went through many, I think 5 variations to try and get the fade right. I don't know if I have it exactly right, but I have it pretty close. And yeah, so after that was all said and done, Pablo was done. And from here I can import him into the game and we can start having some other characters. So I'd just like to thank you guys for watching. If you want to follow me in other ways, I am on social media. We have a Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll have those linked in the description. And if you'd like to play my game, Crosswalk the game, it's currently on the App Store, and I'll have that linked in the description as well. And yeah, thanks for watching.